We are good to go. Right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our next session here, which is, I guess it's extending on from our last session from House, which is about what consumers are looking for and how that applies to the KBB retail business in particular. So what we've got here is a sort of cross-section of people, but particularly Jane Blakeborough at the end there, who is from J&. Blake. How did you come up with that name? I don't know. She is a sort of retail trends expert. I suppose that's how you would bill yourself, isn't it? And she's come up with some headline consumer retail trends that we're going to then pick apart and see whether or not they apply to the KBB world and whether that's a pro or a con. So we also have here Tina Riley. I guess you're the local girl, I suppose.
Local girl, yes, I suppose so. Yeah.
You're the local girl who is from a very successful retailer, Modern Homes.
Thank you.
But she is also the current national chair of the KBSA. And then we have Graham Jones here, who's the sales and marketing director for Mearway. And you've been in this game donkey's years, basically. That's why you're here.
I'm not so sure like that,
yeah.
Andrew, but I know what you mean.
You've been here donkey's years. So, where's we do it? Now, so, what we're going to do is we've got our headlines that will come up on the screen here, and Jane's going to just explain to us the wider retail context for that. We're going to start off here with what I've called research. So, Jane, just fill us in on the sort of headlines of that.
By the time a consumer has set foot into a showroom, they've already done an awful lot of research about the products that they want to buy, particularly with kitchen appliances with the big brands, because they can do so much research online. They've got Google Shopping, customer feedback, forums, comparison websites. So by the time they set foot into a showroom, what the salesperson's job is to persuade them to buy from them. Not what to buy, but where to buy from.
The research journey has changed, and step one is no longer come through the door of showroom. I think that's basically what we're saying here. Tina, you're on the shop floor there. What's your view of when people come in and think they know it all already?
It's absolutely right, but I think it can occasionally, as a retailer, make your life even more difficult because, unfortunately, and we all do it, you look at these beautiful websites with these lovely huge kitchens and all these lovely fitments, but you've got a 3 metre by 3 metre kitchen and a budget of 2 and 6. So sometimes it's disappointing that you have to start the relationship and start the journey by telling them actually they can't have what it is they think they want. Can also be just purely on a basic level of a family with 4 or 5 children and 2 dogs and pets and a busy lifestyle. Would you put a white contemporary high gloss kitchen in? We feel morally we should be steering our clients towards what's best suited for them. And possibly a grubby grey kitchen might suit her better or make her life easier. So I love that, yes, they are doing their research, but sometimes a little bit of information can actually be quite damaging. And we have to then manage the journey even more than we used to do. When they came in 20, 30 years ago and didn't have a clue, you could just immediately get them all excited about your showroom. They come in now with their Pinterest on their iPad and their house on their iPad and this and that and everything else, and it's like, yep, but that's not going to work. We have to manage consumers very differently than we used to.
I mean, Graham, what do you think? Does this industry do enough to help the consumer at that stage of the journey?
Well, I think it's higgledy-piggledy. I think the interesting thing from a retailer's perspective is if they've come through the door, they've already discounted other retailers. So our experience would suggest that an average consumer may be looking at 6 or 7 different retailers online. They then make a decision who they want to engage with in a more personal way. So yes, it's higgledy-piggledy. The big risk a retailer runs is losing the customer before they've even come through the door. And if you're not inspired by a website, and if the website doesn't sort of punch your buttons, then you probably never get to see the consumer. I still think that once the consumer comes through the door, the biggest thing they're looking for is validation that they've made the right decision to engage with you as a retailer. And so it's still down to people. And this point that Tina says, that where independent retailers think have a massive advantage is once that consumer comes through the door, you can give them the validation that they're dealing with the right person and you can advise them in the right way. Very important.
Tina, I love independent retailers to death. I get my livelihood via them too. But then they don't always have the best websites. They don't have the best.
No, absolutely. And it's we were talking about it earlier, sometimes it's to do with time. I mean, my marketing used to comprise of one meeting a year with the man from Yellow Pages, and it took me 20 minutes. And that was my marketing campaign for a 12-month cycle. Now, I kind of am marketing full-time on top of trying to design, on top of trying to manage running a small business. I think social media managed badly can cause you more problems than if you do it properly, but I think generally we're not very good at it in this industry in any shape or form. And actually it's madness, because we have the most exciting products, we have the most inspirational things that we can do for people. It sounds cliched, but I still believe we change people's lives by making their homes a nice place to be. It makes your whole life better, and we don't give it the validation that it deserves, really. But how we get retailers involved with that, I'm
That's
not
the hardest
sure.
part, isn't it, Jane? I think the research is... there's no one place to go to get that kind of information, is there?
Yes, and the good thing from your point of view, is that the people that suffer the most are the big brands, because there's a lot of brand awareness, so they can compare exactly like for like online. With you guys, and with the kitchen units and things like that, people don't know brands really, so they can come in and talk to your salesperson and be persuaded that yours is the best brand, because they've got no other comparison really. They can't then go down the road and buy exactly the same thing.
No.
A big part of it is no one likes to walk in somewhere feeling that they don't know anything. Like, I don't know anything about cars whatsoever, so to walk into a car showroom, I immediately think I'm an idiot and I'm going to get ripped off.
The other thing as well is that, but this has always been the same, you do not want to jump into salesperson mode the minute they walk through the door, because again, I would like to believe that an independent specialist, or whatever you want to call us, cares more about our clients than just box selling, which there are bigger places they will go to where they are box sellers. So we always try and start off by building a relationship, be it talking about the dog or grandchildren, the weather, whatever, but do not start off on, madam, how much do you want to spend and which kitchens you want. You have to get to know your client, because every single client is completely different.
You are researching them.
Yes, definitely.
Well, look, that kind of level of service brings us on to our next point here, which is that we are all individuals.
This is actually a global megatrend where mass marketing is really taken as a bit of an insult now, and people are wanting to be treated as an individual. So if you look at what the big brands are doing now, if you look at what Mini does, if you look at their website, you can custom build your Mini to end up with a Mini that is absolutely bespoke to you. Well, obviously it's not, because that is mass customization. Nike do the same, Coca-Cola with their bottles, Levi, all of these brands are looking for ways to make the customer buy into a product that is individual to them, and that makes the buying process less about the price and more about individual product, being individual. And this is very important for the independent retailers, because they can offer that service. They do it naturally.
So surely, Graham, as Jane says, this is what independents in particular have been doing for years, isn't it? This is the absolute raison d'etre of their business model is about individualising the customer.
Well, you and I know that, and probably most of the people in the audience know that the key here is telling the consumer that. And one of the problems that independent retailers have is that the big multinational brands have figured out that that's one of the trends they need to be looking at. And you've got the likes of Wix that are presenting themselves as kitchen specialists with kitchen studio formats, and I suspect that'll be a trend that'll continue going forward as everyone wants their slice of the pie of the market. So here it's all about saying to the consumer online, we're the people that you need to be interacting with, we're the people that can personalise your kitchen and give you something which is bespoke to you, and actually we're the people to put your trust in to deliver you something which is truly individual. That's the key. Delivering it in store is one thing, but telling them about it online is another. And one of the biggest issues we have as an industry is that we're, in an old-fashioned term, we're kind of shopkeepers. Having a website actually needs as much input in time as running a shop. It needs to be manned, it needs to be up to date, it needs to be engaging, all these different things. You can't just put a website in place and expect people to figure out that you're the people that are going to give them an innovative kitchen. It doesn't work that way.
As you say, Tina, you've been doing this for years with your customers. I've always had this, the use of the word bespoke is a bit of a controversial thing in this industry sometimes. But I've always thought that it doesn't matter if the kitchen's mass-produced, if the experience of the retailer has been bespoke. If you walk away feeling that
I think you need to care about them, genuinely need to care about them. And I'm still surprised nowadays when I have a kind of specific list of questions when I'm planning a kitchen that I will ask people about how they use their kitchen. If I'm making an appointment to go and measure, I tell them not to tidy it up. I need to see it at its worst. And there are so many places that just don't do that. I think one of the biggest, back to this trend and how we have to do it, and House earlier said it, all the kitchens sold are white, cream or beige, or grey, beige and white, and so are the floor and so is everything else. So what you have to not bespoke as well is what you put in that. So we've had to add to our offering stools, window blinds, glass splashbacks, all of those products, lighting, that you can make that kitchen very individual. We've got a kitchen this week which is a very cream kitchen, but the splashback is being printed with peacocks on. I doubt anybody else will have a kind of peacock splashback, but they love it. And the fact that I've taken the time and trouble with them to find out what's special to them has made their kitchen feel bespoke, albeit they have a very nice kitchen coming from Mearway, but it's a generic shaker ivory kitchen.
So you're now thinking gap in the market, aren't you?
Absolutely, peacock splashbacks. I've made a note.
Limited.
I'm all over it, like a
But I
lash.
think that part of just to round this one off, Jane, I think part of it is that technology and data and the collection of data has allowed big brands to, if you like, fake individualisation.
Yeah, it's
hasn't
mass
it?
customisation, which is a contradiction in term. But I think it's very good for the smaller retailers. And when you look at what's happening in things with 3D printing, that's where technology is going. So, make the most of it because you're ahead of the game.
We'll move on to the next one now, which is bargain hunting. So, Jane, talk us through this.
With the recession being over, so they say, the fallout is that people are still looking for a bargain. They've got this national hobby, which is bargain hunting. So they want to go and feel like they've got themselves a real bargain, but what they're not looking for is the cheapest product. When we did our research into consumer purchase process for bathrooms and kitchens, they didn't want the cheapest product. That's not what they're interested in, but they are looking for something that makes them feel like they have still got a bargain.
Tina, you must have to negotiate every day with these.
No, I don't
punters.
do it.
Not at all.
No, won't do it. So again, that's sometimes one of the first conversations that I have with them, because I think, unfortunately, we're inundated within our industry on this. You can have 50% off and a free dishwasher and a free this and a free that. And actually, consumers, I believe, are beginning to realise that there is no such thing as that amount of discount. So we very carefully say to them from day one, there are so many products to go into this project, we will individually price every single thing we put in that room. So if we are over your budget, we can see quite clearly where we can alter things and we can change it. They talked about worktops earlier. We can do a set of laminate worktops at £600. I can do Corian worktop at £8,000. There can't be many more industries when something that has to go on every single kitchen can vary in price so considerably.
Well, I think train tickets to Birmingham
Indeed.
is one.
£3.40 I paid from
Well,
Leamington.
you're the local girl,
Bargain.
that's why. But does a level of suspicion come out of this stuff, though, Jane? Do they want a bargain, but do they believe every bargain that's put in front of them, do you think?
Not necessarily. What they're looking for is the best quality within their price
Value
range.
for money,
It's
I
value
think, yes.
for money
Yes.
more than... And,
Yeah.
and on top of that, thinking that they've really got a good product
Yes.
for their price, which is different from looking for the cheapest product.
Yeah.
When we did the research, nobody wanted the cheapest
No.
product. They wanted the best quality that they could get within their price range. And that is slightly different. And
Yeah.
also people are looking for little luxuries. Whilst they might be economising elsewhere, they might go and have a wine cooler
Or a hot tap. Yeah.
tap, because
Yeah.
to them
A
that
peacock
is a
splashback.
peacock
Absolutely.
splashback.
Graham, you, as the supplier here, as the manufacturer, are you seeing that sort of pressure on providing your own margin on high quality products versus sort of retail price? Is that...
Yeah, well, we
filtering down to you as
operate
well?
in both sort of sectors, well, a gambit right the way through. And I think from a retail perspective here, it's very important. Tina obviously has her view about who her target customer is and how she handles that. So the first thing is you need to understand who it is you're actually trying to sell to, and what are the the things that are going to punch their buttons. I slightly disagree. I think that there is a mentality in the market at the moment where people demand value, and if you're able to give people a discount, everybody likes a discount. Doesn't whether you're earning £250,000 or £25,000. Everyone likes a bargain. So my view is you've got to build the relationship first, ensure that you've built some trust, and then you hit them with the punch, the killer punch, which is I'm going to also give you value. So you get to deal with the local expert in your local area, and I'm going to give you as good a value as you'll get down the road at B&Q.
I suppose it comes back to individualisation as well, isn't it? If you feel that you've Morocco market style negotiated with you, as opposed to an online voucher or something, that I've got my value for money because I feel that I've knocked you down in price somehow.
Yeah, it is a very difficult one, and I know within the industry it is very. You either believe very strongly in it or you don't believe in it. There's kind of no middle way. The only thing sometimes you do, and it's back to what Graham was saying about as a retailer, you must know your customer in the first instance. So who's your ideal customer? What are they looking for? Where are they based? Whatever. You also need to look at what your competition is doing, and I often choose to deliberately do the opposite of what all my competitors are doing, because again, a consumer will say, you gave me the plans, you gave me individual pricing, nobody else would do that. And I kind of go, well, that's my element of trust in you as a consumer, which then comes back to me as being chosen as the retailer.
Building relationships and being individual as well as everything else.
But what works for me won't necessarily work for everybody else. I accept that.
Right, our next one up here is an odd one for this industry because it's the environment. Fill us in a little bit on this, Jane, but I think we could probably guess what you're going to say.
Particularly in the bathroom industry, there's a bit of a dichotomy going on, because research done by the University of Manchester basically found that the UK is now a hyper-clean nation. We shower far more than we used to do. Several times a day we use loads and loads of water. So that's one side of it. The other side of it, the third most common phrase used online in 2013 was global warming and climate change. So you've got two sides of the argument. One side that we're using more water if we possibly can. The other half of it is that we are concerned about the environment. I think what happens is people tend to boycott at a very high level when there's a problem. When there's, a factory that falls down in a clothing factory, if you see polar bears on a teeny bit of ice, you think, what can I do? I'll boycott that massive company that's not paying its tax and all this sort of thing. But they forget about what they can do on an individual level. They're not quite prepared to forgo that power shower. What we do in the industry, we have to make it worth their while to actually be environmentally friendly. That product, it might be more expensive, but it's got to be better than it can't be more expensive and not work as well as a power shower.
I think the paradox of that for this industry is I love the environment and I love polar bears, but if I'm buying my bathroom every 10 years, I want a bloody big shower. And that's basically how it works, right?
Yeah.
So
it comes down to cleanliness and hygiene.
Exactly, and you are investing in yourself and your element of luxury and that kind of thing. But where I think the paradox lies in this industry is more the legislative pressure upon manufacturers to meet these requirements, and especially if those manufacturers deal a lot with building and construction, where they have an awful lot of red tape they have to tick, and how that then filters down to product development on the showroom floor.
They're quite interested in dual flush toilets because of the conservation of water, till they realise that they're not going to flush as well as a 9-litre toilet would have done, and then they come back and moan that their toilet's not working. So, and it's the same thing. Yes, we'll have a shower to conserve water, but we want a huge jacuzzi bath. I don't generally find at the moment my clients are more selfish a little bit, in that they're more concerned with getting what they want for their money than the eco side of it to a certain extent.
This is the thing, but the products that are coming through that you've got to stock, because that's what's been developed, have those elements to them, but not because of retail pressure, but because of European pressure. Let's talk about
European pressure mostly, isn't it? Because it doesn't always work with our water systems in this country, some of the products that we're having to supply now and having to specify, and I can only see that getting worse, not better, as time goes on.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, really give a monkeys about what that kitchen's made from?
Oh, I think they do, actually. Yeah, I think I don't think it's one of the first decisions people make.
No.
You know, they want to make their decision and then be comfortable. They place their business with the right company. And actually, it's interesting. We talk about legislative pressure, but you know, there's no legislation to insist that we make kitchens out of PEFC or FSC material. That's an underswell of trade and consumer pressure. That means most kitchen manufacturers in this exhibition will be doing that out of commercial reasons, because if they didn't, they wouldn't sell. And things like water-based paints as opposed to oil-based paints. Well, actually, there's no legislation to force us to do that, but we're doing that. And I think that's a big social trend. I think people really want to be. They want to be happy. They place their business to somebody that cares about your product.
I think on that point, we're finding British. She says quietly, surrounded by lots of other British manufactured products are pushing buttons of consumers more so since the recession than potentially they did before, because they seem to like the thought that even with the best will in the world, a lot of your products are not British. It's just an assembly, put together in Birmingham. But they like that. They like the thought that actually their buying process affects local companies to them.
That's a different thought process.
Yes.
That is what the company is doing and how environmentally friendly the company is that they are buying from. And that's a key buying trend with millennials, the 25 to 35, that they have high moral standards about how companies should behave. It doesn't necessarily filter down to what they do in their own bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And equally, it's much a moral argument about saving the environment as it's about saving energy and saving water if you're being metered for those things. Right, we better move on. We could do that one all day, couldn't we? Our next one here is an easy life, I've called it, Jane. So fill us in quickly on this one.
Consumers are wanting an easy life. Now, we've had self-cleaning products for a long time. There is a number of products out in the industry, self-cleaning concrete, self-cleaning showers, self-cleaning toilets, but they're now coming to the forefront. Going back to environmental issues, the lack of detergents you need, that kind of thing, and also high-tech gadgets. So really, there is so much emphasis now on how easy you can make your life.
We saw how high up the search the boiling water tap was on
amazing.
This is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
So how does this manifest itself when you're with Mr. and Mrs. Smith? How does this come through from them?
Well, it's back to finding the products that are suitable for their lifestyle. So, as I said before, if they've got 6 small children and lots of animals, you wouldn't necessarily put a kitchen in that's really high maintenance. Worktops can be very easy to look after or very hard to look after. Flooring can be easy. So all of the time, when you know what their challenges are, because we're all time poor nowadays, you then specify products to them that are going to be easy for them to manage, because it's no good having that beautiful kitchen that we've replicated from the house picture if it's dirty or full of clutter. So it's again managing how they live a little bit to make sure that you're designing the right kitchen that will give them the ease of looking after and everything that's easy to keep clean and a place for everything.
The extrapolation of that is the integrating technology into the kitchen and the bathroom. They were saying that number of people are having a dedicated kitchen tablet just for use in the kitchen. Yeah. From a manufacturing point of view, what's the next step of this? You've got charging surfaces, haven't you? You've
got charging surfaces. I think the whole worktop down the line will become a lot more active in terms of what it's capable of doing. So I see a fusion of appliances into kitchens. At the moment you've got a very distinct appliance industry and a kitchen industry, and if we're really honest, we don't really talk to each other that much. No. How often do you get oven carcasses that don't fit the ovens? And so I think what will happen as things go on is there'll be a fusion of the furniture and the technology, and actually it's happening. A lot of the internal storage systems now, the pull-outs, the Le Mans, this is the sizzle that people buy, and actually they're part of the furniture, but they're really not. They're a specialist company that's developing that, and we're integrating it more into what we're doing. So I think that's something that'll come forward. I think that from a manufacturer's point of view, it's really interesting and this is where an independent retailer I think really can win, because if you've got style over here and you've got functionality over here, it's finding out where on that spectrum the customer sits when you do your design. Yep. Because you can design the most stunning kitchen and actually design out all the things that make their life easier.
Yeah.
And they'll sit in that kitchen every day of their life, and they'll bloody curse the person that's designed it because it's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so that's where the retailer really can add some value to that proposition.
Now, on our final one here, just to round us off, we have a topic that I'm really interested in, which is the multi-generational home. The idea that, you explain it.
Our consumers are now living in multifunctional, intergenerational homes. So we've got the grandmother looking after the grandchildren. You've got children that, not children, but young adults that can't afford to buy their own home that are still living at home. You've got people living and working in the same environment. So you've got this intergenerational hybrid living. But we also have the smallest houses in Europe. You know, the RIBA have said that our new builds are only 92% of the size they used to be, of the minimum size that was specified back in the 50s. So our houses are a lot smaller, but have to accommodate so much more. And that's why they're looking for maximum storage space. So that slide, I don't know who was here from the house talk before, one of the most pinned images was a corner unit of storage, that everybody loved. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for style, but also that is, very useful.
I mean, we've had, 5 years ago, we were talking about special needs kitchens or special needs bathrooms, but it's actually moved on completely from that to this idea that it's actually products to be used by everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating about this myself is it absolutely challenges fixed sizes, fixed heights, that have been around for donkey's years and no one really knows where they came from. Who decided 600 mil was the... I don't know who decided that.
Worked up height of 910. Who decided
now I'm 6'3".
Mm-hmm. I'm 2 foot...
You're 2 foot tall.
Yeah.
If we were married... It
wouldn't suit, would it?
If we were married, Tina, it would be a bit odd.
Yes.
We'd be like the Crankies, wouldn't we?
We would.
But the idea that you are... It's customisation and individualisation again, isn't it? But it comes from people's needs and wants.
But
it's a challenge for the people supplying the products, though, isn't it?
Yes. You're having to design areas in a kitchen for things like homework or for things like whatever.
The dog.
Done that. Fish tanks this week. I designed a kitchen around a fish tank. But also, often those spaces then have to change into something else at another time of the day. So as designers, it's hugely challenging now as to what we're trying to fit in the space. When you see the wish list that the clients come to you with, which is 14 pages long, and then you've actually got a kitchen that's kind of 7 metres by 7 metres, that's a heck of a lot they're trying to get into that space with their soft furnishing area and their table and chairs and their breakfast bar and the dog basket and this and that and everything else. And I think it's a challenge designers are going to face more and more in the future.
Do you feel, though, that the products are available to make that easy for you, or you are doing it despite the catalogue that's in front of you?
You're probably doing it despite the catalogue that's in front of you, but if you've got a manufacturer that you can then get lots of kind of non-standard things off, that's quite helpful occasionally, regardless of whether it's in the catalogue or not. Or just being ingenious as to how you utilise that area. And like you say, often a change of height, a change of depth, or even something that can adjust in height and depth may mean that area can be multi-purpose.
So it's despite the manufacturer, Graham.
I like that, yeah. Well, I think from a manufacturing point of view, obviously people are looking for economies of scale. And when you're trying to personalise something and you're looking for economies of scale, the two aren't good bedfellows.
No.
So you're bound to have to meet somewhere in the middle, and it depends which manufacturer chooses to where they meet. So, I think things like this are interesting because I think it's... The kitchen's being used very differently now than it was 20 years ago, and I think children are a lot more important. People are knocking down walls between kitchens and dining room, and they're using it as their sort of hanging out space, and so it's not just about personalisation, it's about having the right range content. Media systems is one that we're doing a bit with at the moment, because a lot of people are coming and saying, you know what, I'm doing my kitchen, but I also want a media system. So you've got to redesign the range content to accommodate that. Offices, people are actually working in their kitchens. It's they don't have room upstairs. They want to have a workstation, and so manufacturers, I think, have to listen and be a little bit more adaptable to take account of that.
Yeah, who's got all the money at the moment? I mean, it's the over 50s, the over 60s, isn't it? They've got all the money, and they have to. If they're getting a kitchen that's going to last them 10 years, they have to anticipate what their needs will be then. And one of the particularly the government, want you to stay in your own home as long as possible.
possible.
As long as
Yeah.
possible. This is going to be, I think, one of the biggest issues on this industry.
And I think that's
to come.
beneficial to specialists because we will have the
Yeah.
products available to
Yeah.
us. We have the expertise, and your box sellers, for argument's sake, will not take the time and trouble. They're not interested in that. It's turnover. It's, a U-shaped kitchen around the outside of the wall. Everybody has the same thing. Off you go. Whereas I think the benefit to us is that we will take time to talk to customers and listen to customers and understand their needs and then develop a kitchen that they want.
And there are products out there that are fantastic for this kind of thing, but probably aren't thought that way. Flush shower trays and things like that that are
it's all
thought.
available. You just have to do a little bit more homework to find the right product to suit that particular job. And we're finding very much now that we did used to go through a stage where generically you would specify the same kitchen or the same bathroom again and again. That's kind of gone now very much, and has done over the last few years. Every single kitchen is so individual to that particular person and that particular lifestyle and that particular house, bathroom, whichever room you happen to be doing.
I think that's absolutely fantastic stuff. I think we've probably solved everything there.
Yeah.
Haven't we? We've sorted
Have
everything
a
out.
peacock splashback.
Yeah, and a peacock splashback. I think I've got their album. So thank you very much to Jane, to Tina, and to Graham. Thank you very much for sticking with us.